You guys ready? All right. Let's call the March 19th, 2015 Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment meeting to order. My name is Mark Stone-Cipher, and I have not done this in a long, long time, and I'm doing it today because our chair, Jeff Austin, has the stomach flu. And so if I make any mistakes, try not to laugh too hard. And you may want to, if you never, is there people here that have never done this before? Please raise your hand. If you have never done this before, you may want to take into account that we only have 3 board members, and we usually have 5. And so you may want to ask for a continuance to when we have a full board. But if you are comfortable with the 3 of us making your decision, we are prepared to do that today. The first order of business, I need to receive the minutes from the March 5th, 2015 meeting.
So moved.
All right, is there a second? Second. All right, all those in favor, please cast your votes. Minutes are received. Are there any continuance requests that are coming by way of the staff?
I have one today, item 8, case number 14014, the appeal of William Jefferson. The applicant requests a continuance to April 16th.
All right, can I have a motion to continue that to April 16th, please?
So moved.
Second? Janice?
Second.
All right. Would you please cast your votes? Let's continue to the 16th.
And it's not a huge problem, but this matter has been continued a couple of times, hasn't it? Isn't this the 3rd time that we've heard this? Is there some reason why it is continued that we should be aware of, or is it just a convenience thing, or?
I'm not aware of any specific reason. Initially, they've been a little bit slow to respond. I don't know.
Is the applicant here today? Thanks.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Has that been approved to continue? Please cast your vote. Continuance is approved. At this time, I'm supposed to ask if there's anybody in the audience that would like to seek a continuance, and you may want to because, like I said, there's only 3 board members here today. So is there anybody that would like to come forward and ask for a continuance? And that's it should be from the applicant, but it can come from both sides of the fence. Okay.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Members of the
Would you please state your name and your home address?
Yes. My name's Jay Spradling. My address is 1320 Reese Court, Oklahoma City. I'm here on the matter 14029, the application of Gas Star Exploration for a variance from the oil and gas drilling district to drill an oil well in the location shown on their application. This application, I've had a chance to speak with the Gas Star people this morning about the possibility of a continuance. We never really did reach an agreement that they would be willing to do that. The reason I'm asking for a continuance is that the application itself is somewhat incomplete. There is a survey that was not available online but is probably in your packet showing 2 well locations on this site. None of the entryways to the site are shown, and all of those issues are important to the surrounding landowners. I represent the landowner to the west, WP Land, that has preliminarily platted Council Park, and the drilling of these wells could affect that land, because in my conversation with Gas Star this morning, they indicated that they intend to drill 8 wells on the property, not just the 2 that are shown on here. And the staff report shows that this is a request for a variance for the permit to drill one oil and gas well. So there's 2 shown on this. There's a discrepancy with regard to what it seems to me they've asked the Board of Adjustment to give and what they intend to eventually do. So we don't know where the additional wells will be drilled. They may be in a line going from east to west, they may go north and south, but if they go east and west and they move farther to the west from their site, their 300-foot setback continues to creep farther and farther west and could affect the lots and the building of homes on those lots. Same can be said for shifting the additional well locations to the south. I think Falling Springs has a preliminary plat of their subdivision that shows lots backed up to this site. So they don't have the 300-foot setback right now. There's 252 feet to their south fence line. So if
Mr. Spradling, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but is the basis for your request for continuance that this information will be available by the next hearing, but it's not available today?
I would hope we could work this out. I mean, I'm here.
Well, let's do this.
Yeah, because
You're saying the application is incomplete.
Yeah.
The staff report does not show that. Why don't we hear from the applicant and see if he objects? And I take it what you're asking is that we continue this until the April 2nd docket.
So that we can work together to try and minimize the impact of this drilling operation on our site.
Fair enough. Let's hear what the applicant has to say. If you'll have a seat.
That'd be fine. Thank you.
Okay. Would you please state your name and home address?
Yes, sir. Braden Pollard, 4713 Northwest 75th Street, Oklahoma City. I am with Gastar Exploration. I did speak to Mr. Spradling this morning, and as far as him addressing the plans for future development, we have applied for the drilling of 2 wells. I spoke with him and said that this is a field-wide unit that's been established since 1947, and that in order to efficiently drill the area, that there could be up to 8 wells drilled onto it. As of right now, there are no plans in our future to drill those 8 wells after the 2. We're asking for 2, and that's all we're planning drilling going forward.
Okay, does your application go for 2 wells or 1 well?
2.
All right. Is that clear, JJ, that they're asking for 2 in their application?
There's 2 well sites that are almost on top of each other, very close.
Okay.
But so yeah, they do show that in their drawings, but their application is for 1. And we noticed and reported for 1. So I think to move forward with 2, we would need to continue it and re-notify.
Would it be acceptable with you to amend the application and reference 2 wells in it, and then give notice for the April 2nd meeting?
What would be sorry, I have my application in front of me. Where does it reference the 1 well, if I may ask?
To drill an oil and gas well, variance application, the above property is unique, the above mentioned well. So the application itself talks to 1 well.
Nowhere in the Oklahoma City ordinance that I've seen does it state how many to request at the time. Speaking with the city officials that I did, telling them that we were drilling 2 wells, was I ever pointed to somewhere where I told them how many wells we were going to drill in the entirety of the pad? Is that a requirement from the ordinances?
I think what you have to do in your application, I'm not giving you advice, but
Yes, sir.
that you need to identify what drilling activity is going to occur. And so the staff will be clear on that point. And more importantly, so the people that you notify will be clear on that point.
Well, and also, Mark, because if we approve a variance for an oil and gas well, and then you drill a second one, that poses a problem. Is that fair?
Because it wasn't part of the variance.
Right.
I think it's for your protection to do that.
Okay. May I take a moment before I make my decision, discuss with...
Yeah, we can take up the next matter, and then you can come back after that.
Great.
How about that?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Can you call the next matter, please?
Item 2, case number 14030, application for special exception of YDF Inc. to allow a disposal well located at 9440 Southwest 15th Street.
Good afternoon. Would you please state your name and home address?
Good afternoon. I'm Wayne Smith. I'm here on behalf of YDF, the applicant, 7011 North Robinson. This is a request for a variance to drill a replacement oil and gas water disposal well. This site already contains one disposal well that has, due to mechanical reasons, become unusable, and this is a replacement for that existing well.
And just for purpose of the record, properly permitted by the Oklahoma Corporation Commission?
Yes, currently the application is under review with a lot of the issues noted because of water injection. The timing on getting applications approved has been extended dramatically. So this one is under review at this point.
Okay. Anybody protesting, any of your neighbors that are protesting this application?
I have no information of any protest.
All right. Would you like to take a seat?
Sure.
We will have this gentleman come forward who is...
I'm sorry, my brain's working a little slowly this morning, this afternoon. There you go. You said that your approval is under review, so you do not have the approvals that you need from the Corporation Commission?
We don't on the disposal permit. The drilling permit has been approved, but not the disposal. But again, this is a replacement to an existing disposal well on the same facility.
We can make it conditional that they can't move forward until that is approved by the Corporation Commission. I just wanted to make sure they filed everything with the commission.
Yes, everything's been filed.
Yes, sir.
My name is Mac Morgan. I'm here, I'm the owner, the trustee of two trusts that own the vacant land, 60 acres that's shown just north across 15th Street from this property, which is zoned agricultural, which currently has crops on it. And I don't think that variance should be granted because I don't think they've met any of the elements for a variance. There's no unnecessary hardship here. There's nothing peculiar to this piece of property, and it goes against the public good and indeed the PUD 1512 that the owner applied for and affirmatively got not very long ago. This is the opposite of the Gas Star situation, if you hear that, which is the drilling of an oil and gas well, in which the courts have held that there is potentially a hardship and there is a peculiar or specific reason. If you have valuable minerals underneath your property, you have the right to profit from that and obtain that. Here, we have the opposite. We have something that's not valuable. We have waste that is being shot down underneath the ground, in essence an underground landfill. I don't think that you would approve an above-ground landfill for this site, given the two residential areas around it and the agricultural area around it, as well as the significant improvement to 15th Street, all of which have happened since, the original oil and gas well was drilled. That's the disposal well that doesn't work now. I think you have to look at this from the standpoint of the fact that they're going to drill a new well. They're not even going to use the existing well, which also the Supreme Court has said isn't a basis for a variance because an advantage of time and money doesn't create an unnecessary hardship or a specific situation. A disposal saltwater well can be drilled any place. Any land, anywhere in the world, you can drill the well and pump stuff down into there. So there's no reason to have it directly across from two residential areas and across from my agricultural land that's cultivated with crops, which eventually you pump enough salt water down there, it will leach up and kill the crops. It's a question of when rather than if. So I don't believe that they've carried their burden on any of the elements to put a saltwater disposal well in this location.
Real quick, this application does not require a variance, but instead it's a special exception application. So I understand that doesn't alter your protest, but it does alter the board's requirements for what we review as it relates to this matter. And I'd be happy to kind of go over those if that would be helpful for you, but you can review those as well.
Okay.
In this instance, there's seven different requirements that must be met as opposed to where you have a variance. And so all I can tell you is you may want to cover those 7 factors. I'm more than
Well,
happy
the
to...
notice I received said it's a variance. So you sent me notice, which the Oklahoma Supreme Court said you have to send to landowners within 300 feet, and what I received is the nature of request is a variance to drill a disposal well. If they're asking for something other than a variance, then I object to that,
Okay.
because that's not the notice I received.
Okay.
If you scroll down there, you'll see on what you pulled up there, it says variance to drill a disposal well.
All right, anything else?
That's all.
Thank you, sir.
The application that was filed both as a variance and a special exception, the variance being for the drilling of the well, and the special exception for the operation as a disposal.
Okay.
There is an existing disposal well in the second PUD 1512 that's shown on your plat called the Hodges that belongs to the same owner. So there are 2 wells there in essence. The one that we're requesting approval for is, like I said, is a replacement for an existing well that's been there for many years.
Was that well, do we know, was that well granted a variance in order to exist at some point in the past, do we?
Okay, so what you're telling me is the disposal well is to service producing wells in and around the proposed site?
Yes.
Right. And
It is a
more than-
commercial operation.
And is it more than one well?
Now, this is one disposal well.
No, I understand that,
But in that property that belongs to this owner, to YDF, there is another disposal well approximately 2,000 feet east.
Okay. But the water that's being disposed in it, is it coming from wells in and around the area?
Yes,
Right. And is there more than one well?
yes.
All right.
There's more than one well that supplies to this disposal.
JJ, any unfavorable considerations from staff for this special exception?
No, and like I say, on a special exception, that's a lot different than a variance. It's more of like a use on review. You take them on a case-by-case basis. And instead of the hardship that has to be met, there are standards that the board has to look to, the 7 standards.
Am I understanding this correctly, that that's because for a disposal well, a variance is not required as it is with an oil and gas well? Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, and I think 2 of the things that we are to look at, are there reasonable precautions being taken, and will the general public be protected? And in these matters, we have usually deferred to, is the Corporation Commission, have applications been filed with the Corporation Commission, and are the requirements of the Corporation Commission being met? And what you're telling me right now is that you have applied with the Corporation Commission, and you're just awaiting their response.
That's correct.
What about these other requirements that are in no way indirect as it relates to this particular zoning code of these other elements relating to the special exception? Have all of those been satisfied?
Yes, to my knowledge, they have been. Being as this is an existing disposal operation with trucking and parking and et cetera.
I think in view of the protest of this application, I would be much more comfortable entertaining it after it has been approved by the Corporation Commission. It may be a small matter if we approve this now, conditioned upon that approval, but I would rather hear that it has been approved.
How long is it going to take you to get approval from the commission?
It's been in their hands for over 6 weeks now,
Okay.
and so they're still sitting on it.
Would you entertain a motion to continue this to April 2nd to see if you can go garner further evidence or information about the status of the application with the Corporation Commission, we could take that up next time when we have a full board.
That's fine. Yeah, we can continue to April 2nd.
Okay.
I'll try to pull that a little bit further through the commission.
I make a motion that we continue this matter to April 2nd.
Okay.
We've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Your motion is approved.
Thank you.
Folks here from number 1, are they still out in the hallway?
I apologize for the confusion earlier. We would like to go forward with just the one well variance, and we understand that each well requires a separate variance, and we will pursue the future variances for future wells, but we would like to go forward with the first and initial well.
Chuck? Yes.
Is it because you guys are here to protest and would like to continue? Are you advocating, you want to advocate for the continuance?
All right, so where we're at procedurally, as far as I understand it, we are being asked to move forward on a request for just one well, a variance, which is what the notification asked for, and that we have people here in opposition to that application for a variance that are moving for a continuance. I take it to April 2nd. Is that correct?
April 2nd works for me.
All right. Is there anyone that would like to propose a motion to continue this? If not, we will proceed on.
The problem is I haven't heard anything that would justify continuing it, I kind of feel obligated to hear if there is such evidence before we,
So you want to take a seat and we'll have is it Ms. Miles?
Hi, I'm Laura Miles. I live at 7413 Northwest 150th. I would like to move that we have a continuance based on that we only have 3 of you, and I really think we need all 5 to be able to actually hear this and give it a fair chance. So,
And you understand we are a quorum. We do have the authority to vote.
I do, but I think that this is big enough, and I think this is going to affect enough people that we really need to have more people here, and we also need to have a little bit more time to kind of get some more information, because we still don't have enough information as far as everything else that's going on.
Any other reasons for the continuance?
Just for the continuance?
Yes?
No.
I may be able to help this along. I'm not prepared to support this application today, so the applicant may want to reconsider his position. You can take a denial today, or you can take a continuance.
It wouldn't necessarily be a denial, it would be an automatic continuance if you don't get 3 affirmative votes.
on those grounds, I'm going to move for a continuance, because it's going to happen regardless. So I move to continue this to April the 2nd.
Can I say one thing? If possible? You're free to come up to the microphone and give us your name and address and express your thoughts.
My name is Spencer Ackenbach. I
Yes.
live at 23060 Lauren Lane. I'm also requesting it to be a continuance, but I'm also protesting the actual well itself based on the information that I have. 2 things, make it real simple. One is we didn't receive the information of the location until this morning. We also thought there was just going to be one well. He has clarified that there is now just going to be one well. The other thing is we are actually the owners of the property directly south of the subject property, which is called Falling Springs. The property directly south has already been approved with the preliminary plat. Therefore, it's within, currently, I don't know if you have his drawing, but currently, 2 things I want to know is what actual well is he going to go forward with? And then the second thing is he is still with either well within 300 feet of our already approved preliminary plat. So unless he relocates a well.
Just so we're clear,
Yes,
you're asking a request for a continuance because you need additional time to gather additional information, correct?
That's one thing. I'm also contesting the fact that if he wants to move forward with this current option.
I understand that too, okay?
Okay.
We've got a motion.
Okay.
And I think we have a second?
Okay.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
We've got a motion and a second. Would you please cast your votes? This matter is continued to April the 2nd. Thanks for coming today.
Mr. Chairman, I need to ask the same question of the applicant. Which of the two wells are we moving forward with?
The one, the 8-1H, they're 8-1 and 8-0 on the plat, we'll go forward with the first one.
1H?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm so prepared.
Item 3, case number 14024, request of American Eagle Homes for a variance to the required number of parking spaces and to allow parking and maneuvering in the right-of-way located at 1236 Northwest 5th Street.
Good afternoon. Would you
Good
please state
afternoon.
your name and your home address?
My name is E.J. Khoury, and my address 1805 Delton Drive, Oklahoma City.
Just so you'll know, for purposes of the record, there are two people here protesting this matter
Okay.
today. All right?
My name is Chad Curry. My address is 3712 Northwestern, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and I work with American Eagle Homes, LLC.
Okay.
And our request for variance on this was after discussions with, currently, it is a non-conforming use as we understand it. The city did grant us permits to do modernization and remodeling on the interior. Were there ever to be a change of use in the zoning, the parking would need to be brought up to code. At the time the building was built, it was built so close to the city right-of-way on Southwest, or on Northwest Fifth there, that there was not adequate space for maneuvering and queuing. If you can see on the drawing, if you can go back one, I'm sorry, to the, there is a grass strip and some concrete that has been being used for parking. Previously, when the Public Supply Company had it, they had over 200 employees, and they were using these different drives and parking on the street and all sorts of things like that. After our discussions with planning and permitting and Mr. Chambliss, they said that, you have enough space for parking, but we don't have the maneuvering and queuing area that would also be required. So our variance is just that we are allowed to use the city right-of-way space so that when we can construct parking along there. There's only 10 employees that this operation has, and they are still in a wholesaling warehouse. So the change of use it's not changing the use. It was merely an attempt that if at some point this building ever is sold or becomes a different use, that way the parking would be to code for it because it would be a variance.
And tell me again, what is the use at this time?
It is a wholesaling warehouse, still I-2. It's still industrial. Basically, they're a vitamin packaging company.
Yes.
And so their manufacturing is over on Southwest 4th, or Northwest 4th Street, right down the road, and that's they don't own that, but that's who they do a lot of business with. So the vitamins are actually manufactured there, and then they're brought over, and then they package them in this warehouse where they have 10 employees. You can see right there where the outline of the building is. There's and where that grass space would be, but the maneuvering and queuing area for the backing up would basically extends into the city right-of-way there.
All right, and you understand that there are two people here that are protesting
Yes.
today? And have you been through this process before?
No.
All right, and you understand that we only have 3 members of the board here today?
Yes, sir.
And that you can request a continuance if you'd like to come back on another day where we have additional members?
We're based on the nature of the request, and the location, and the fact that we're not changing the use of the building to be anything other than what it currently is, and the fact that we were granted permits to go ahead and remodel the interior as appropriate with the plans, we're confident that we'll be okay today.
All right, well, would you take a seat and we'll ask these?
Before you,
sorry.
what improvements do you intend to make to the outside of the parking area in particular?
Right, exactly. They're going to pave it like it would be basically up to what the current code would ask for. They would pave it, stripe it, put additional lighting, make it nice, add some landscaping, but basically make it a parking lot that could actually add to, I don't know, but basically just take it from the grass and what people have been parking on now and actually pave it and make it a actual nice strip.
I've been going there for the last 3 months every day. On 5th Street is the only car you see, the trash truck and the postman. That's the only traffic we have. From Klein to Blackwelder, Northwest 5th over there, it's absolutely horrible area. And we would love to see that business going so it can make the city grow too. And, you know, we're not trying to do anything illegal. We're just trying to promote businesses in Oklahoma City. That's what I'm trying to do.
Good.
And the other business they're dealing with, we just moved them from Texas to Oklahoma City, so...
So you moved the business from Texas to Oklahoma
That's
City?
right. So they can get together, so that's what we're trying to do, so...
I understand. All right, if you'll take a seat. I think we have a Mr. Thorpe here. And we have two Thorpes here, Russell and Vicky.
Russell and Vicky. And I'm Russell Thorpe.
Yes.
I live at 1800 Canary Drive in Edmond, but we own the property at 1249 Northwest 4th Street.
Okay.
We operate a business there. And so we were wondering about the specifics of where they wanted to have their parking, and it sounds like they're talking about specifically on 5th Street. And really our biggest concern in that area is the amount of homeless traffic. And we would encourage the board to really consider allowing people to do as much development as practical in that area, because I feel like the more businesses we have working in that area, the less people that are going to be wandering around there that don't really live there.
Okay. So do you have questions that you would like to sit down with the applicant while we hear another matter and get some clarification, and then we could...
I think that listening to what they had to say, I think we understood where they wanted to have the parking on 5th Street.
Yes.
And we're certainly had no problems with that.
So what you're saying is that you support the application?
Absolutely. We would be in support of their application. They also, since they have the property down where it says indoor skateboard park.
Yes.
And they actually built the parking lot on the east side of that property for their manufacturing. So I really think they're helping the area, and I would encourage y'all to consider that.
I think Vicki wants to say something.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
1800 North Canary Drive. So my concern is that listening to him, we thought it was on 5th Street, but as Russell spoke, the gentleman was shaking his head no, so that's what rose a concern with me. We're concerned about the property in between our two businesses.
Okay.
And it's an alleyway, and my concern is I just want to make sure that the parking spaces in that alleyway wasn't going to be open, that they really are developing the front of the building, and that's their plan. I just wanted clarity.
Okay, you want to make sure the alleyways were going to remain open?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you answer that question?
Well, by the time we just cleaned it, didn't it?
Yes.
We just cleaned it. We just asked the people who owns the glass windows and everything to clean it. We got on their case, and it will stay open. We'll have no use for it at all.
Whoa, wait a second. Would you mind coming up to the... Are you saying that alley is currently open and accessible?
As of today, it is, because Public Supply, they used to store a lot of windows, because they own the property on 5th Street, too. So they sold all the windows, broken windows, thousands of them, to somebody. Now, the last 3-4 days, they've been cleaning up, it's clean, and we want it to stay clean, and we want the gates to stay open, because it's an easement, and they should not really have it closed, but we have no use for it. We're not going to be going in and out from there because we're going to block the doors from there, too.
Right. So it's my understanding that the variance does not affect the alleyway, correct? Okay.
No.
Can I clarify? You just said you would like the gates to remain open. If if that's the truth, then do you know what will happen with the vagrancy in between there? Because I brought pictures of what happens in front of our building.
Well, and the thing, the bottom, we don't own those gates.
Yeah, we don't own them. We
That's
don't
not
have
on,
peace
the
there.
gates are not on our property.
The alley is a sticky issue, but it's not an issue before this board.
As long as
So-
that's what I want to clear. it.
It's not before this board. So you can't solve that here, and we can't solve it here.
Perfect.
All we
Just
can.
wanted to know where their right-of-way, where they were designed.
I agree with you that it's an issue, and I'd get privately with that outside of this.
But it's beyond our purview, at what we're looking at, okay?
Okay.
All right.
But yes, we just want to, for everyone's clarity, we just want to park on that, or pave the grass and the stuff that's directly in front of.
Is there anyone else here in protest?
No.
I will move to approve the application. I'm actually very familiar with this property. This area needs development. I toured it after Public Supply went out. You guys have a challenge over there, and I wish you well, and with that, I move for approval.
Is there a second? Second. Please cast your vote. You are approved. Thanks for coming, everybody, today.
Item 4, case number 14026, request of Gary Owens Development for a variance to the minimum lot width in the AA District, located at 11,009 and 11,017 Case Drive.
Good afternoon, Mark Grubbs, Grubbs Consulting, 1819 South Morgan Road, on behalf of the applicant. What we're asking for today, the code, the building setback line in AA is a minimum of 50 feet, and at that 50 feet, you're required to be 150 foot wide. That's code. It's very common practice around a cul-de-sac that we set the building setback farther, but meet that building width at the building limit line. So on these lots, what we didn't plat this, or we could have just taken care of it in a plat. So that requires us to come here. What we've done is, it's these two lots right here that we're referring to, and we didn't plat it. All we did was dedicated the street right away. So each of these lots is described by meets and bounds, but they're all over 5 acres. And here, if you set the building limit line at 50 feet and it's 150 wide, then it causes these lots to be almost 8 to 10 acres instead of 5. And as you can see, their depth, what we've done here is we set these building limit lines back at 180 feet because we have plenty of depth, and we still have that 150 foot of width. So we just ask you to approve that today.
So you have 150 foot of width at your building line?
Yes. The reason you're asking for this is because of the peculiar shape of these two lots, correct?
Is there anyone here in protest of the application? I move for approval.
Please cast your votes. You're approved. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you very much.
Item 5, case number 14027, request of Pascal Autry for a variance to the platted limits of no access to permit a drive on Santa Fe Avenue located at 13221 North Santa Fe.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Pascal Autry. I'm the architect for Delco Electric. They wish to develop this property to build a new facility, about 18,000 square feet. The overall development was platted in the early 1980s, and there was a limit of no access for this property and the property to the north. The property to the north, that limits of no access was vacated in the early 90s when that building was built. We've included an aerial map, a Google Earth photo of that area, and if you'll take a look at it, every property along Santa Fe on the west side where this is located has a driveway onto Santa Fe, and we'd like one also. The proposed driveway is within the city requirements to set back from 132nd Street, and we ask for your consideration.
And in looking in the record, I see that the city staff says that this could help to ease traffic congestion. Is that your thought, too?
Yes. The issue is that this development only has one way in and out, and people want to turn north, it tends to back up. And they being an electrical contractor, they have trucks coming and going during the day. The field workers go directly to the sites, but there may be, times where they need to come and get materials, that sort of thing, or have a meeting. So it's really just office staff that's going to be coming here on a daily basis. And an easy way to head south from their property would be to help circulation.
Any questions from the board?
In your application, it says that it's for site circulation and it'll improve access, and city staff seems to agree with you. Interestingly enough, it also says that during periods of high traffic, things back up. I'm looking at an aerial of Santa Fe. There's a center turn lane, which is helpful, but I think part of the problem is that everybody has a curb cut onto Santa Fe. So you have these main streets that are public streets, like 132nd, which is designed to funnel traffic and then stick it onto the arterial, but instead everybody's got these curb cuts. So people can't make left turns to go north because there's so many driveways. This driveway, where it's shown on your drawing, I measured it on an aerial. It's roughly 125 feet from what would be the entrance to 132nd Street.
Right.
So as cars are backing up and trying to turn north, if there's cars going in and out of that point of ingress and egress, it's going to obstruct sight lines and cause problems. Is that fair? Do you think that's accurate?
No, I disagree in that the traffic that's going to be exiting out of the property is not going to impact the people trying to turn left and go north from 132nd, because they're going to be looking north, not south. And part of the problem is that as people want to enter 132nd, they're the ones that have the first choice to pull in. So if you're heading north and you need to turn left to go on to 132nd, you're actually blocking the people that are already backed up trying to get out. And so this will ease in both those situations.
Can you comment on my concern, JJ, just in the standpoint of, city staff seems to support this. Is that because they feel like it won't adversely affect traffic or cause problems?
I have the same concern, and our favorable and unfavorable considerations seem to be somewhat contradictory here. So, my initial look at this was a concern about putting another curb cut onto Santa Fe, but yeah, I would like to hear what staff thinks about this application
Well, the
specifically.
favorable consideration really deals with traffic congestion internal to their site. That, if people are backed up on 132nd trying to turn left, then you really can't get out of this site because they're backed up past the driveway. On the other hand, the unfavorable consideration deals with the additional driveway on an arterial street. So it's traffic off the site. So you have to weigh one against the other.
You're weighing a private issue against a public issue, which is traffic backing up or being an issue on Santa Fe.
Does it decrease the amount of traffic on 132nd?
Probably not very much. But how many people did you say would be servicing the facility here? You said
the ones that work there on a daily basis is 15.
15 occupants. Mm-hmm. But they're probably, being electrical contractors, they're probably coming and going, and is that?
No, those folks are the office staff.
Okay, so they're there. Okay.
But you also have trucks coming and going, correct?
Yeah, but not every day because they go directly to the jobs. So the vehicles don't go every day, and they have a vehicle. They do things a little unusual for electrical contractors. Most of the conduits are actually bent and the boxes put on in this building, and then those components are taken to the various jobs by their truck. And so it just saves labor out in the field where they can do it in a controlled environment. So the folks out in the field, that's not to say they never come to this building, but they don't come to this building every day because the materials are delivered to them.
Mr. Autry, just pure curiosity question. How difficult from a site plan standpoint, because I know you guys have got paved yard built in here and gravel yard for storage and material and fenced areas. How difficult would it be for you to relocate that proposed driveway?
Well, what you're looking at was the very initial, sketch of the layout, and what the owners want are a wider parking lot in the front, which is going to move the building further south, away from the intersection, which will allow this driveway to move further south. And then they don't want this long, narrow gravel yard that's shown on the back of the building.
They do not want that.
That's correct. They want it backed up to about 5 feet away from that utility easement.
So the building's going to be pulled back?
Right, and so that driveway, in turn, is going to get moved further.
All right, hang on right there. JJ, how far, in an ideal world, are 2 points of ingress and egress? I can't remember the...
Well, this driveway meets the separation from 132nd, so moving it further south would even be better. Ideally, it would be located centrally between the two driveways, one to the north and the one to the south.
But that one to the south it's actually, that's a private truck access for the warehouse property to the south, so it takes, that will take a lot less traffic than 132nd. I'm very supportive of why you want a curb cut. I get it. If it were my property, I'd want one too, right? I'm curious how far south you think you can get it from 132nd, because that's why your application says what it says, is there are traffic problems here, and that's a result of everybody having curb cuts.
Yeah. So what you're asking, can it be moved farther south?
Because what I'm working toward here is I want to support it. We've got 3 people, and I'm trying to get to a conditional variance.
Gotcha.
Does that
Makes sense.
Yeah, the bulk of the problem is not so much that everybody's a curb cut, it's the amount of traffic that's increased here in the last even 5 years. Because due to the south, you've got that Golf Pro thing, you've got the, I don't know what the big development is they're building right now, just on the south side of the turnpike.
Have you driven May Avenue between Northwest 63rd and Hefner Road?
Every day.
Me too. And that's the problem with everybody having curb cuts, and as development and populations increase, that's why I'm concerned to begin with. We're not doing a good enough job of monitoring those things, and you end up with this.
Yeah.
Can you move the curb cut? Can you move it farther to the south?
I'm sorry?
Can you move the curb cut farther to the south?
Yeah, and you asked how far, and let me grab my scale and we can calculate it real quick.
Let me ask JJ that question. Can they move the curb cut farther to the south, and how far before it interferes or is too close to the driveway to the south of it? Or does that separation matter to us?
I would say I wouldn't like to see them move it any further south than like centrally located on the property.
I think that would actually... I think that little movement might make a huge difference, frankly.
And it appears if they move the building back some, that could be accomplished.
You want me to just show it to you up here? Is that the...
Well, just what would be your distance? As I said, I think the existing drive, correct me if I'm wrong, center to center was like 125 feet as it's set currently.
Yeah, it'll pull it south 30 feet, or excuse me. Yeah, 34 feet.
So now we'd be about 150 feet center to center?
Center to center. Well, from the center 132nd to the center of this driveway we're talking about, it's going to be around 167.
Does that give you any pain, any heartburn?
You want to make conditional motion?
I just want to make sure that Janice are you comfortable or?
I'm comfortable, quite honestly, but I'll support the motion if you make it.
I'll make a motion that we support the application under the condition that the proposed curb cut be a minimum of 150 feet, I'll give you a little room for error, 150 feet, center to center, from the existing curb cut on 132nd.
Okay, yeah. That's acceptable.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote. Your motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Autry.
Item number 6, case 14028, request the City of Oklahoma City Myriad Gardens Foundation for a variance to the front yard fencing and outdoor storage requirements in DBD located at 101 Ron Norick Boulevard.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Paul Lefevre, representing the Myriad Gardens Foundation. With me today is the Executive Director of the Myriad Gardens, Maureen Heffernan. What we are seeking, we were with the DDRC this morning, seeking their support, and received it, on Ron Norick Boulevard. If you can visualize that, where the ice skating rink is located, immediately east of the ice skating rink is a small structure called the Ice House. And the Ice House, the visible part is relatively small. The major part of the facility, though, is underground, where all the cooling facilities for the ice skating rink are housed. The Ice House itself, as a structure, serves during the winter as a rental for skates. Immediately east of the Ice House, between the Ice House and the sidewalk, there is a vault and also large grates that are servicing the cooling units down below in the basement area. During the winter, those vault doors are often open for people working down there, and so they have portable screens at this time, but those are eminently unsatisfactory solution to just a life safety problem. During the summer months, they serve hamburgers and things from the Ice House, and that also has some functional issues that revolve around the uniqueness of this garden site is that everything is oriented toward the interior of the gardens, so that what would normally be a front yard is, in the case of the Ice House, the backyard, the back shop for the Ice House. And we have a situation where as deliveries are made, they are temporarily stacked there before they're taken into the Ice House for food service reasons. On a temporary basis, bags of trash just get set out there. Staff uses that as a break area and things. The foundation believes that this needs to be improved from a visual aesthetic standpoint, and are proposing a screening, a fencing structure around this area to isolate the vaults and the grates. There'll be a couple of openings that can be gates that can be opened to allow deliveries to come in, or equipment to being brought in that works on the coolers, etc. So we realize that the variance that's required here is because we technically have a front yard that's serving as a backyard, and therefore the styling of the fence is not as our code would anticipate it to be. Here, rather than vertical slats for like a front yard fence might be on a picket fence, here we're proposing some horizontal slats using wood materials that are very similar to other screening fences used on the Myriad Gardens. But they are more dense. You can still see through them, but much more opaque. Feel like that the look is very good here, and would like the approval here of a variance if you would.
The idea and what you're asking for seems to me to make perfect sense and is most likely quite necessary. The fact that it's not site-proof is a problem for me, however. You're talking about providing these to conceal outside storage and trash and, to conceal an eyesore and so on. But yet the fence is not really site-proof.
It is not completely opaque. You are correct. There really is no outside storage going on that you would perhaps associate with like a Home Depot or
Oh, no, I
Walmart or
understand. You're
something
talking
like that.
about temporary
It's just very temporary, bringing things in. The design of the fencing is almost identical to that used around some of the other cooling units that are on the west side of the conservatory itself. They are, the ability to see through them is suggested more than apparent, and we think that we believe it's been thought through very well by our architect from Frankfurt Short Brusa, and works with the style of other things in the gardens, and we believe it actually will address the concern that you're expressing there.
This is the photograph we're seeing now that
Yes.
you're talking about.
If it would be helpful. Yes, there's several here. I don't know if you're seeing it in color or not, if I may.
Yeah, having said all that, you've done nothing to alleviate my concern. It is possible to construct fencing, whether it's woven or whatever, that is both permits airflow and nonetheless is site-proof. And while I think that this is a great idea, I think that based on what it is you're going to do behind the fence, it needs to be site-proof. We would require site-proof fencing around any kind of trash storage on any commercial site, let alone one that is this visually important.
Did you say you went in front of
We went to the DDRC
this morning?
and I think I can represent that they were very supportive of the design.
Okay, was there a vote taken?
Yes.
Okay, and did it pass?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
There's only 3 of us, Paul. I'm not going to get my vote today. If you'd like to take a continuance.
Not to be argumentative at all, but this
Take the continuance, Paul.
This is something that the Gardens is pushing for to solve what they believe to be an existing aesthetic problem. And so we feel like this is a very good solution to an existing problem, and I think the discussion with the members of the DDRC this morning surrounded the concept of, do you want to build something more like a wall around it, and part of the discussion is what's better, what's worse for keeping the visual appeal of the gardens, and frankly, I believe that if we would change it to fit your criteria, we would not fit the criteria of the DDRC, and so I'm at somewhat of a dilemma there.
That's why I would suggest you take a continuance. Perhaps if there were more of us here, you would be more persuasive.
Our next meeting is April the 2nd.
My name is Maureen Heffernan. I'm the director. Let me just say briefly, and maybe it would help clarify. The reason I'm the person who initiated getting some kind of enclosure here for 3 reasons. And actually, the screening reason aesthetically, in my mind, is really the 3rd reason, so it's not the primary reason. The first one is safety. As Paul mentioned, the door, the hatch to the chillers, you pull it up and it's a big drop down. Tons of kids in the wintertime with skating. We have these temporary barriers around it, which you could easily, something could happen. So we are always trying to be extremely safe. So having a screen like this would clearly eliminate that threat. That could definitely happen. The second reason is kind of a security issue too, which really hasn't come up yet, but because, I'm there all the time, I see how it operates. That building has cash operations in the winter and the summer. And right now, the door to that building is right there off the street. It's always open because people are coming and going all the time. And just from the nature in a downtown urban area, my concern is for having a little bit of a screen so at least it isn't this wide open space that anybody can kind of walk into. So to me, the manager, the operations, the safety and the security are really 2 important points. And the third, certainly for screening, when we have some trash that sits out there, maybe workers taking a break, so they're smoking, you kind of want the air circulation so it doesn't heat up in there. And it's so temporary. Some deliveries or trash, our crew comes around in their little carts every hour or so to pick up trash during the busy seasons. So it really doesn't sit there very long, nor do deliveries for security reasons, which would also help with that for security. When things are being delivered, they're not just sitting out there by themselves. They're inside a screen. And as Paul mentioned, the downtown design review, if it was completely boarded up, it would almost look too harsh. And so that's why we purposely went with these slats. So there's a little opening, and yet it screens out most of the view. And for me, from an operations perspective, that's ideal when I consider everything.
And I totally agree with all of that. And that's why I would suggest either a woven or a staggered slat. I get that you need the circulation, but I think you also need the screening visually. I think we would require that on virtually any site. So if you're not getting my vote today, you can, do what you want to do about that.
We'll take a continuance to your next meeting then.
Okay, and that'll be April 2nd. Can I have a motion and a second for that, please?
I move that we continue this item until the April 2nd meeting.
Thank you very much.
I'll second that motion.
Please cast your vote. We'll see you April 2nd.
Item 7, case number 14025, appeal of Jennifer Hodgins, a decision of administrative official regarding the operation of a home occupation located at 613 Northwest 138th Street.
Jason Sansone on behalf of the Hodgins. After consultation with my client, we would request a continuance until the board is sitting in full. However, I have a conflict on April 2nd. I will be in the Western District of Oklahoma Federal Court.
It's the only day we have. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, we are prepared to go if we cannot continue it to the next date of April 16th, but we would respectfully request April 16th continuance.
I move to continue the matter to April the 16th.
That is a good point. We do have someone here that wants to speak on it. Are there people in opposition to the application for continuance?
For the continuance, not in opposition to the application.
Why don't one or all of you come forward and give me your name and address and let's talk about the continuance.
I apologize. I didn't realize there were people here in opposition. So
I told you I would not do a very good job today. Hi.
Hey, my name's Michael Shuck. My home's at 612 Northwest 138th. I'm directly across the street from the questioned property. We're kind of a working-class neighborhood, you know, it's hard for us to get out there. Some people that wanted to be here today have different schedules and stuff, and just to be able to get us all together is kind of tough. This problem has been going on for quite a while here, and our main concern is safety. We're having some safety issues. A lot of children, special needs children, latchkey kids, and a lot of different contractors and day laborers have come into our neighborhood.
So to make the record clear, you oppose any continuance, is that correct?
Yes.
And it's based upon convenience. You've got everybody here today, and you don't want to come back another time. And let me add one more question. Have you spoken with the applicant to see if you can resolve your differences while you are here together today, or is it something you want to be heard on?
No, we haven't spoken. I haven't spoken personally with him.
Okay. Would that benefit you in any way, or do you just want to move forward? Do you want to huddle up with your group for a minute?
Yes, what?
Do you want to visit with your group for a minute?
Yeah, let me talk with everybody.
Okay.
I'd like to just go ahead and continue today. My name's Randy Zumwalt. I live at 604 Northwest 138th Street.
Okay.
I work nights, 15-hour nights. I'm a registered nurse. I work for a hospice group, and I run emergencies at night.
Okay.
The issue for me is I'm not getting to sleep during the day with the heavy equipment and the larger diesel trucks with the 30-foot trailers parking in front of my house. It rattles my house.
Okay.
These houses were built back in the 80s. The windows have a little play.
Sure.
And so I don't get a lot of sleep during the daytime right now. I would like to go ahead and just get this over with, honestly, so I can sleep at night.
You would like to have the hearing today?
Yes, I would.
All right. Applicant, do you understand their concerns and why they want to move forward today?
We do understand their concerns. I believe the fact that, based on my conflict, that I'm asking for farther time to continue only aids them in that they have time to prepare and schedule as necessary for a future date.
The only thing I can see, and I want to make sure the record's clear, you are here today and you can proceed today, correct?
That's correct. But as has come up in multiple of the prior cases, the board is not sitting in full, and only 3 of the 5 are available. That's why we request.
Mr. Chair, I don't mean to speak out of turn, but I'm going to revoke my motion to continue the matter. These folks are here, took time off work to be here. It could be a continuance anyway. There's only 3 of us, but we do have a quorum and we can hear the case.
Mr. Chairman, could I request that we take just like 5 or 10-minute recess, and maybe that'll give them a chance to visit, and I need to step out and take a phone call. And
Let's take a recess. Do I need a motion on that, or can I just recess for 5 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right. We are recessed. At this time, I call the meeting back to order.
Just to clarify, it's the position of the board that we shall proceed with our case, correct?
Unless there is
for
a
continuance
motion,
was denied.
unless there's a motion for continuance made by one of these two members, then we will have to proceed.
Understood. Then we will begin. Once again, Jason Sansone on behalf of the Hodgins. And on January 27, 2015, a notice of violation was issued in violation of 59-12200.3C for an illegal home occupation. The Hodgins timely appealed on February the 9th, 2015, as a person aggrieved under 59-4250.10. The Hodgins contend that they are operating a model home as defined in 59-8200.8 and therefore not operating an illegal home occupation. As has already been raised by some of the protesters and will likely be raised in a little bit, they believe that my client is outside of the confines of a model home. To rebut a view of those positions, my client contends that he does not have, nor stores at this location, large equipment, any kind of heavy equipment, cargo trailers, or flatbed trailers. The only times that they come and go to this property is for when they are doing specific work on the property as a model home for renovations. I would bring to the board's attention on that note that on 10/28/2014, 1/16/2015, and 1/29/2015, this house was inspected for both permits and violations, inspection of illegal home occupation, and in none of those periods were violations issued. His conduct and operation of the property has not changed during that time period. To touch on the model home statute, some of the requirements are that you cannot be in continuous operation of a model home for more than 4 years. 613 Northwest 138th Street was only acquired by Jennifer Hodgins during 2013. That is reflected in the deed that we provided with our appeal. Therefore, she could not be in violation of the 4-year rule. Further, the house cannot be occupied as a primary residence. I will testify on behalf of my client. My client is willing to testify that neither they nor anyone else has resided in that residence during the time period at which we assert it is a model home. I don't know, as they have not spoken yet, exactly all of the elements that may or may not be argued with regards to model home. I believe that the issues that are going to be presented come down to the allegations previously made a moment ago regarding traffic, noise, things parked on the street. Once again, this property has been inspected 3 times previously and at no point was found to be in violation. My client contends that we do not have the equipment that is being alleged to belong to him. In the protest letter and photographs provided, no evidence has been provided to us or to the city, this board, to support the position so far of the protesters other than the verbal accusations. If there is any visible evidence or photographs of equipment owned or operated by my client parked in front of the property or creating a nuisance, we would welcome that and try to address that. At this time, I'll open up to
And I just want to make sure, did you give your name and home address for the record?
I did not provide my home address.
Okay, would you give me your name and home address, please?
Jason Sansone with Sansone Law. Our office address is 1212 South Air Depot Boulevard, Suite 19A, Midwest City, Oklahoma, 73110.
Thank you, sir.
Real quick before you step away, I want to make sure that the model home, you called that, if I'm not mistaken, did you call that a statute?
Ordinance, I apologize. Okay. 59-8200.8. I stepped through some of the elements.
Say that for me one more time. I'm not real fast.
59-8200.8. For the record, I will read that ordinance. A structure that is designed and built as a residence with at least part of the dwelling in temporary use as a sales office and showcase or prototypical example of the kind of dwelling that its builder will construct within that subdivision. The dwelling may be used as a sales office for a period of no more than 4 years. For purposes of this chapter, a model home does not include a home owned and occupied as a personal residence, but which has been offered for sale and is not simply being shown as an open house. Now, the model home use is only applicable to R1 zoning. This property, 613 Northwest 138th Street, is zoned R1. That is reflected in the staff report that you should have received, that we received. If you would like, I also have a map from the city's GIS system showing the zoning as the appropriate zoning area in which model homes are permitted. Once again, through those elements, we already addressed the 4-year requirement. The sales office requirement, I believe, is evidenced by the protesters' letters themselves and the photographs that were provided. Although they contend that that is an illegal home occupation, we contend it supports the position that it is a sales office and not a residence but a model home.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question of the staff before we go along here. I am a little confused. My understanding is that we are considering an appeal from the decision of an administrative official regarding the operation of a home occupation, which is something different than a model home. And they have stated, the applicant has stated that there's no one living at this location. So help me out here, JJ. Are we talking about a model home, or are we talking about a home occupation?
I think we have city staff here today to speak to that.
Well, specifically, I guess my initial concern is just what it is we're here to consider today.
They've issued a citation or a notice for zoning violation of operating a home occupation.
And you're saying that the model home is an exception to that?
If I may, this was a notice of violation, and this is a de novo review. The burden of proof still lies with the city. We, of course, have no idea, having not heard yet from the protesters or from the code enforcement, what it is that we are allegedly in violation of. So when I speak, I'm speaking in anticipation to rebut certain arguments, but I don't directly understand.
What it is that the violation is?
All I understand is the code number, and that is an illegal home occupation. But as you yourself pointed out, could not be an illegal home occupation as the residence is not occupied. 4007, illegal business. That's all I know. Therefore, I've presented my arguments that it is unoccupied, could not be a legal home occupation business, and that if, anything, it is therefore accepted as a model home.
I think it'd be helpful to hear from code enforcement, since they are here today.
We don't disagree.
Is that okay, JJ?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you please state your name for the record and your address?
Sure. I'm Chad Davidson, City of Oklahoma City, Chief Zoning Inspector, address 420 West Main.
Thanks for being here.
Offices. As you stated, we left a notice for an illegal home occupation. As he also stated, no one lives at the home. Therefore, by zoning code, which we have here, you can't have an illegal home occupation. Or you can't have a home occupation if you don't live there. It's just basically that simple. If no one lives there, you can't have an occupation there. You can't operate the business there.
Okay, that's his argument, is that, okay, I'm not a home occupation. I'm a model home.
One at a time.
He was issued a notice for having an illegal home occupation, and I think you agree that what you're saying is you're not a home occupation. You agree with that. You're a model home.
And by definition, here, a model home would be a home that is designed to be sold or to be
used as a sales office
as a sales office for development in that area.
Are you holding that ordinance
I
in your
am.
hand?
I'm
Would you
holding
mind,
both.
so I don't have to try and...
Ordinances, even the definition of a model home.
relevant statute as well as the fact it's only applicable to R1 with a map showing that it is R1. Sorry, ordinance, I continue to refer to as statute.
This is 59-8200. All right. So you've been to the house, correct?
I have.
All right. And is it used as a dwelling unit, or is it used for purposes of sale?
Now, I've been by the house. I haven't been in it. My inspector that's here has been in the house.
Okay.
Left notice, gave to the person that was in there working in the house. They told him that it's they'll use it as an office.
Okay. Would it be okay to hear from her? Would that be all right?
Sure.
Your inspector? Lucky you. How are you today?
Fine, how are you?
What is your name?
Teresa
Address?
Gregory, Inspector Gregory,
Okay.
420 West Main.
All right. In your mind, when you went out there and saw the home, is it a model home being used to sell homes in the area?
It is they're considering it a model home. However, that subdivision is not being developed anywhere. There is no new development in that area at all. There's no vacant lots. There's nothing to develop in there. To have a model home and for them to show what they're going to build next door, that's not in that area.
Okay, so there's no houses under construction, there's no vacant lots, there's no new homes for sale.
Yes, sir.
Right. So what you're telling me, I think, is that this does not meet the definition of a model home.
Correct.
Did you tour the house, or were you just in, like, one room?
I was in, I stepped inside. I'm sorry.
Do you know whether there's anybody living in the home?
There is not anybody living in the home.
Thank you. Do we want to hear, or do we need to hear from the protestants?
I agree we do. I wish that we had been able to review this in advance. I'd like a minute just to review the ordinance, having it read to me. The issues on a matter of ordinance and law, they're protesting the existence of it, and certainly can hear from them, but I'm more concerned about where we are with these definitions and what's applicable here. You agree, Councilor? Would you mind coming to the podium real quick? I actually have a question.
If I understand correctly, it's city code enforcement's position that the only element we are in violation of regarding model home is that my client is allegedly not building homes in the subdivision. Is that a correct interpretation of your position?
Not building, not selling, no vacant lots to buy.
Well, I'm just asking if that's position before I address that position. I want to make sure we're arguing on the right lines.
On a model home issue, but I don't know that we're here. Okay.
My client is actively purchasing, rebuilding, doing construction, remodeling, and selling homes in that area and that subdivision. The statute reads...
What is the subdivision called? What is it? Berry Hill? Oh. Berry Hill? do this. Let's, for a moment, hear from the protesters. And
May
then
I
you
say
can come,
one thing very quickly
you can
first?
come back up and rebut what they have to say, and I think that would be a better use of time, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Rennie Zumwalt, 604 Northwest 130th Street. All of these homes in this area were developed in the 80s. They're all existing structures. He's calling this a model home. It's not a model home. This is his construction business he's running out of this residence. It's zoned residential. It's causing a disturbance. These laws were put here. I understand having a model home in a new neighborhood, but this neighborhood has been here since the 80s.
All right. Tell me about...
There are no empty lots. Okay, I just want
Tell me what you've seen that transpires at that home.
Okay, so then, for me particularly...
Noise issues, disturbance, et cetera.
There are noise issues during the day from diesel trucks. Some have 30-foot trailers, some don't. These are workers that stop and come and go in and out of that house. Michael lives directly across, and then I live 2 houses to the, east. 2 houses to the east, and my parking is blocked at times.
All right, now, for purpose of the record, who is Michael?
Michael is here. Michael lives directly across from
what's his last
the
name?
model home.
Okay.
And I live a ways from this model home, and my parking is blocked at times. These are 1-ton, 3/4, and 1-ton vehicles with gooseneck trailers attached, and these trailers are 30-foot long.
And did they have signs on them that identify the business?
Yes, sir. There are signs on the sides of the pickup truck. I believe they say Oklahoma or something to that effect. It's the same sign that's in the yard. And the yard sign does not say model home. It just says home for sale, Oklahoma.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add to the record?
No, sir. This is a nuisance, though.
All right. Any of the other homeowners that live in the neighborhood that would like to speak?
Again, I'm Michael Shuck, 612 Northwest 38th. The one thing I would like to direct your attention to, if you're looking at the Oklahoma City Municipal Code, Section 8200.8 is the definition of a model home. In there, it specifically says that it needs to be a building that is specifically being built in that subdivision. Again, our subdivision's built in the 80s and is built out. Like that, I think that question might need to be directly asked there. They may be doing renovation in the neighborhood because it's an 80s type neighborhood, but building new homes that match that type of home in this neighborhood, there's none of that going on. There hadn't been a new building permit for a new home issued in that since the 80s sometimes. So that's one point I'd like to point out there. I think we all know what's going on here. This is we've been talking about in our neighborhood, that there's an office going on here. There may be a model home feature to it, but it's an office. I've talked to 2 different buyers who have come out of the home, just stopping by. I thought maybe they were going to be new neighbors of mine, so I'd ask them. I said, "You looking at buying the home?" Of course, it was no. "You looking at the nice remodeling work they've done in the home?" No. Then they looked at me confused and said, "Well, they've got it set up. We're here meeting with them. They've got it set up. That's their office." That's what the 2 different individuals coming out who had just talked to them about doing work with them. They said that.
What you're saying, for purpose of the record, they're operating an office in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah, I don't think, maybe it's also a model home, which I don't think it meets the definition, but they are also operating an office.
Okay.
That's my point. We have another neighbor who couldn't be here. She'd been inside of it making a complaint, and she said it's definitely an office. I've also talked to realtors who have come out of the office. I saw a realtor, and I specifically asked her, I said, "Hey, a lot of activities going on over here. Are you guys getting ready to sell this?" She said, no, we're realtors, that's our office. So, I mean, that's however many people. I can sit across on my front lawn, shaking the trash out, and see in and see office work being done. You have the photos there of office work being done. So I think we're kind of confused by the fact that they're calling it a model home, which there's no, it doesn't meet the definition of that. I'd like to also speak to the different standards that this zoning ordinance that the staff has already said they're in violation of occupying or having a home office like this is, they have to say that they have some sort of unnecessary hardship of why they can do this and get the variance. They don't have any kind of unnecessary hardship. They have several different properties that they could have a commercial business in.
So this is not a hearing on variance. It's
Oh, I'm sorry.
appeal from a decision of an administrative official. So the requirements that you're specifically looking to are not really applicable here?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think the point that is, I think in our neighborhood, we see this definitely as a home office, and now we're starting to see the various ramifications of it, how it affects negatively what the zoning ordinance is trying to do. Now we've got our problems with safety, with all the traffic, with all the different people coming in, and it's causing a lot of different problems. They did speak to the fact that we don't have a picture of the heavy equipment and different things. They said that was only there when they were working on the building itself, the remodeling the home. And that's confusing to us as well, because when that showed up, everybody was wondering what they were doing with the backhoe to construct, to remodel a home. We couldn't figure that part out. So no, I don't have a picture of it, but we have multiple people who have seen the backhoe, and it's on a gooseneck trailer that has Oklahoma.com on it. So yeah, it might not be owned by them, might have been rented by them, but it was heavy equipment in our neighborhood that was not being used to work on that building with. The same thing with the brick that they had laying out there, the building materials in their front yard there. It was another thing that everybody was talking about around the neighborhood was the brick doesn't match the brick on the house. What are they doing with that? And I think the inspector had asked them to remove that because it was construction material that wasn't associated with the remodeling of the home. I think the most important thing here is the safety of our children and the people in the neighborhood. Residential areas are never meant to have this much traffic in it. Have special needs kids in the area, and with these different people walking around in here, literally sleeping on tailgates, sleeping under the shade of a little tree, swinging a machete around. My kids play in that front yard.
Anything further?
That's it. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming today. Chief Inspector Davidson, get back up for a minute. Sure. Do we have another resident that would like to speak at this time? I'm sorry. Could you state your name and your home address, please?
Ron Billman, 608 Northwest 138th Street.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. My wife is the one that actually wrote the letter that you have on your records there.
Okay.
The question that I have for these people is, when did the model home start being used as a model home?
Okay. Can you? April of last year. Okay, thank you very much.
Being used as a model home, obviously the home was in shape for display and for purposes of model home, but the vehicle problems, the trucks, and all of the trailers and things like that, those issues and over 5 to 6 vehicles per day parking on that street, that slowed down only just before we received the notice of this hearing for the variance. Since then, everything has quieted down, disappeared.
So the trucks are not coming anymore?
No, we had, true, not like there was. There's only been 5 trucks there as of, I believe it was this week, yesterday.
Okay.
There was one interesting experience that I had last Friday. I basically had to go to my front door because I'm ringing the doorbell like this and pounding on the door.
Okay.
When I opened the door, I basically found a very hostile, angry gentleman there. He proceeded to describe give me a discourse on my wife's letter that we had turned in to the board.
Okay.
And it was very, very, very angry. In fact, at the point, I was not paying much attention to his discourse, afraid that I might be hit. Okay. He turned around and left. And to tell you the truth, over the years, I've found that, if you go into a business and you look at the business that a person started, the character and integrity of the founder of that business is portrayed in that business. You see that character. I got to see Mr. Hodgins' character that Friday when he was pounding on my door and so angry.
All right, sir.
And so if this was a model home, why were we having all these vehicles for all this time? Number 2, people that would call that number. In fact, I know a person that did, called, finding out about it. There was no mention that it was a model home. They didn't mention come and see what we can do. There was no mention of that, and the price that they were selling it for was higher than what was for our area.
Okay.
I don't believe that this argument that it's a model home is real.
Any other evidence you want to submit on the operation of an illegal business?
My wife submitted her observations and her experiences with what's going on. Otherwise, I don't have pictures and things like that because we didn't even realize this variance was going to come until last week. And at that point, they already knew that it was out, and I think they changed their entire mode of operation in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Because they knew this was coming.
Well, I thank you for coming today. I think we already have one of those for purposes of the record, don't we? Thank you. Let's do this at this time. Chief Inspector Davidson, could you come back up for a minute? And I just want to make sure the record's real clear on this. On January 27th, 2015, one of your inspectors went to this address, correct?
I believe so.
On or about that date. And as a result of that, there was a notice of violation issued. Correct?
Yes, on the 27th of January, that's correct.
And that notice of violation was for the operation of an illegal business, correct?
That's correct.
And specifically...
an illegal home occupation.
Okay. And that was a construction company office is what you saw?
I believe that's what
And,
it is.
and just so we're clear, that decision was appealed to the Board of Adjustment. That's why we're here today, correct?
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
And just so the record's clear, the notice of appeal just says that they are appealing.
That's my understanding.
Right. It doesn't mention make any mention of a model home in the notice of appeal, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Any further questions of Chief Inspector Davidson? All right. Jason, would you like to respond?
Just to rebut a few of the points, I won't go through every last one. Ultimately, it is a large neighborhood. Many different people traffic that area. Memories can be fuzzy. Whether or not a truck with a gooseneck trailer had or did not have my client's logo, or you mentally transposed one onto another, is very difficult to say months after the fact. I would actually welcome seeing if we have a photograph of that, but so far we've not been presented with that. I realize we have
If you'd like to take a look at what he has, you're more than happy to look at that.
I would, actually, yes. May I have an opportunity to confer with my client very quickly? Yes. Thank you.
Now, just for the record, that was taken in front of my house. It's directly across from the property.
You may proceed.
Ultimately, much has been stated with regards to whether there's a disturbance or whether there's a nuisance. One, I would like to point out that whether or not the business is an illegal home occupation or not does not pivot on the issue of nuisance, and nuisance law is a separate issue. Every one of these homeowners is entitled to civil relief, and should they believe that we are a nuisance, has the right to seek that relief. This is not the forum for a nuisance argument. The issue before the panel today is whether or not we meet the confines of the violation of an illegal home occupation. Whether or not it's being conducted in a nuisance or not is not the confines of that specific ordinance, 59-8200.8. We've addressed several of the different elements. 4 years, that has not so far been made an issue. The deed clearly states they've not been there for over 4 years. There's the issue of whether or not they are residing in the residence. I've not heard any rebuttal from anyone indicating that they believe there are residents of 613 Northwest 138th Street. Therefore, that element is met. In my eyes, the only issue remaining that has been raised is whether or not they are a builder in active construction in that division. The law does not state that they have to be a builder. It says they must construct. They are doing continual remodeling. They are buying and selling homes in the subdivision. Those are marketed for sale. So many other statements with regards to whether or not realtors trafficked, whether or not salespeople trafficked. I would point out that all of that testimony is hearsay. We also disagree with that testimony, but ultimately that testimony is not relevant to whether or not we meet the elements as a model home, and therefore the violation before the board. Thank you.
Before you go anywhere there, I want to make sure that I understand your argument very succinctly, that this is not an illegal home occupation because the model home is an exception to that being the case. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so you're relying on 59-8200 to substantiate that claim and that argument. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. 59-8200 states, a structure that is designed and built as a residence with at least part of the dwelling in temporary use as a sales office and showcase or prototypical example of the kind of dwelling that its builder will construct within that subdivision. 2 questions. Did your clients build the home that they are currently occupying?
I believe not.
Okay. And are they building homes currently within that subdivision?
They are not building.
Okay. On those grounds right there, I make a motion that we affirm the decision of the administrative official.
Is there a second?
Yes, I will second that motion. I think ultimately, this is neither a home occupation nor a model home. It doesn't meet either requirement. And although we are not here specifically to determine whether or not it is a nuisance, the requirements for home occupation do prohibit any use that would create a disturbance, such as noise, dust, etc. And to that extent, the testimony of the neighbors was quite relevant to our decision. I don't think this is even a close case. So I second that motion.
And just for purposes of record, as far as the Board of Adjustment hearing an appeal, It specifically states in the ordinance that the appeal shall be heard and tried de novo by the board, provided such appeal shall be limited to the grounds specified in the notice of appeal. And for purpose of the record, I see nothing in the notice of appeal that discusses a model home. At this time, cast your votes to affirm the city.
Thank you. We appreciate the board's time.
I want to thank everybody for coming today. We have a couple of house cleaning items that we need to address before we adjourn. And Scott, if you could help me out with a motion.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Mr. Stonecipher as chairman for the day in Mr. Austin and Mr. Harrow's absence.
All right. Is there a second for that? All right. And then we need one.
I'd also like to make a motion that, based on that appointment, that we affirm and ratify the actions today on behalf of the Board of Adjustment.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adjourn. Thanks for coming, everybody.